Hello, and welcome to English Without Limit. I'm your host, Julia, and in this podcast, we explore English through real stories, natural conversations, and everyday situations. Each episode is designed to help you listen, learn, and enjoy English in a relaxed and engaging way. Today, I have several stories and dialogues to share with you. Each one carries a lesson, not just about language, but about life. Let's begin with the story of a man named David. David works as a manager in a large office. One morning, he received an urgent email from his boss. The task was clear: prepare a detailed report by the end of the day. David was already very busy. He thought about taking a shortcut by copying some old data from last month's report. As he worked, his colleague Sarah noticed. She leaned over and said gently, "David, it might be faster to copy the old data, but if your boss finds out, it could cause real trouble." David paused. He weighed the risk. Then he made a choice. He decided to stay honest and use the correct data. It took him longer, but by the afternoon, his report was accurate and complete. When his boss reviewed it, he was impressed by the precision and detail. David realized that integrity at work is always noticed and always valued. This story teaches us that honesty may take more time, but it builds trust and respect. Now, let's move to a conversation between Michael and Emma, a married couple planning a weekend trip. Michael said, "Emma, I think we should leave early in the morning to avoid traffic." Emma smiled. "That's a good idea. I'll prepare breakfast so we can eat on the way." On the day of the trip, everything went smoothly. They enjoyed the countryside, walked beside a quiet river, and talked about their favorite books. At one point, Michael said, "It feels great to take a break from the city and just enjoy nature." Emma nodded. "Yes, moments like these help us recharge and appreciate the little things in life." This dialogue shows how simple conversations and small plans can create meaningful experiences. Next, I want to tell you about Sophie. Sophie started a small business selling homemade crafts. Balancing her new business with her day job was difficult. One evening, a customer named Mr. Thompson wrote to her, "Sophie, I really appreciate the effort you put into this. The piece is perfect, exactly what I imagined." Sophie felt proud and encouraged. She replied, "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Your feedback means so much. I will continue to create with care." This story reminds us that perseverance, effort, and attention to detail can truly pay off. Now, imagine a busy cafe. A man named James accidentally spilled coffee on a customer's laptop. He immediately apologized and offered to pay for the damage. The cashier, Mr. Lee, appreciated his honesty and said, "Accidents happen. Thank you for handling it responsibly." James learned an important lesson. Sometimes the way we respond to mistakes matters more than the mistakes themselves. Let's hear a short workplace dialogue. Rachel said to Tom, "I'm worried about the deadline. We have so much work to do." Tom replied calmly, "I understand, Rachel. Let's divide the tasks and take one step at a time. We can manage this together." By the end of the week, the project was complete. Rachel realized that teamwork and clear communication can turn stress into success. Now, let's visit the home of Daniel and Laura. Daniel wanted to surprise his wife with a special dinner. He brought fresh ingredients and planned carefully. But that evening, he discovered he had forgotten one key ingredient. Instead of giving up, he improvised. Laura smiled and said, "Daniel, it doesn't matter if everything is perfect. What matters is the effort you put in." They laughed, enjoyed their meal, and realized that flexibility and a positive attitude are just as important as preparation. In a library, two students were preparing for an exam. Mark said to Julia, "I'm struggling to understand this concept in economics. Can you explain it?" Julia replied, "Of course. Let's break it down step by step. I'll give you examples to make it easier." By the end of their session, Mark felt much more confident. This shows us that asking questions and helping each other are essential parts of learning. Peter loved photography. One weekend, he visited a quiet village. There, he met Mr. Adams, an elderly man who had lived in the village all his life. Peter asked, "Mr. Adams, what is your favorite part of living here?" Mr. Adams smiled. "It's the simple life and the people. Every day brings a new story, if you take the time to notice." Peter captured beautiful images, but the greatest lesson was not in his camera. It was in learning to observe and appreciate the small details of life. At the office, Susan's team faced a tight deadline. Alex, one of her colleagues, suggested a bold new approach. Susan replied, "I like your creativity, Alex, but let's evaluate the risks before making a final decision." In the end, they blended Alex's idea with a safer plan. The project succeeded. This example highlights the balance between innovation and caution, especially in professional settings. Tom and Hannah were planning to repaint their living room. Tom said, "Let's do it this weekend." Hannah replied, "I agree, but let's choose a color we both like. Maybe we can look at samples online tonight." Their thoughtful communication helped them avoid misunderstandings and complete the renovation smoothly. Kevin wanted to learn cooking. At first, he made mistakes. But one day, he invited his neighbor, Mrs. Roberts, to taste his food. She said, "Kevin, this is a good start. Keep practicing and you'll improve quickly." Encouraged, Kevin continued, and with patience, he grew more confident in the kitchen. This story reminds us that learning is a journey, and encouragement makes it easier. At a busy station, Sarah realized she had forgotten her ticket. She explained her situation politely to the ticket officer. The officer said, "Don't worry, Sarah, we can issue you a temporary ticket so you can travel today." Sarah was relieved and thankful. This shows how clear communication and honesty can resolve problems quickly. Finally, let's end with Anthony. Anthony was a project manager at a technology company. One Monday morning, he discovered that a client had suddenly changed their requirements. Deadlines were tight, and his team was stressed. Anthony gathered his colleagues and said, "I know this is unexpected, but if we organize our tasks carefully, we can handle it." His colleague Maria suggested breaking the project into smaller steps. Together, they built a new plan. By afternoon, the team felt confident again. When they presented the updated strategy to the client was impressed by their flexibility and professionalism. This story shows us the power of calm leadership, teamwork, and clear thinking in times of pressure. Welcome back. I'm Julia, and I'd like to share more stories and conversations that bring English learning to life in everyday situations. Let's begin with Andrew and Clara. They were planning to host a small dinner party for their neighbors. Andrew asked Clara, Should we prepare the menu ourselves or order from a restaurant? Clara replied, I think we can cook together. It will be fun and more personal. During the preparation, Andrew accidentally burned one dish, but Clara reassured him. Don't worry, it happens. Let's focus on the other dishes. When the neighbors arrived, everyone enjoyed the food and the warm atmosphere. This shows us that teamwork, patience, and a sense of humor make social gatherings more enjoyable and stress-free. Now, let's meet Olivia, a woman who loves volunteering. She joined a local organization that helps children learn to read. On her first day, she met a young boy named Liam, who struggled with certain words. Olivia kindly said, Liam, let's read this together slowly. Take your time. Liam gradually improved, and by the end of the week, he could read an entire short story aloud. Olivia felt proud, and his parents thanked her. This reminds us how patience and encouragement can have a lasting impact on others. In a busy supermarket, a man named Robert accidentally picked up the wrong item. The cashier noticed and said politely, Sir, I think this is not what you intended. Would you like to swap it? Robert smiled and replied, Thank you for noticing. I appreciate your help. Such small interactions highlight the importance of attention to detail and polite communication in everyday life. Now let's move to Ethan and Grace, a couple who decided to start jogging together in the mornings. On their first day, Ethan struggled to keep pace, but Grace encouraged him, saying, We can start slowly and build up over time. After a few weeks, both of them noticed improvements in their stamina and mood. Ethan said, I feel more energetic and I enjoy spending this time with you. Grace added, It's a great way to stay healthy and bond together. Their story shows how persistence, encouragement, and shared goals can strengthen both health and relationships. Liam and Sophie, two colleagues, were preparing for a presentation. Liam said nervously, I am nervous about presenting in front of the executives. Sophie replied, I understand. Let's practice together. I can give you feedback and tips. After several practice sessions, Liam gained confidence and delivered a strong presentation. This teaches us that preparation, support, and practice reduce anxiety and improve performance. Henry enjoyed gardening. He decided to grow vegetables for the first time, but his plants did not grow well at the start. He felt frustrated until his neighbor, Mr. Daniels, offered some advice. Try changing the soil and watering at different times. Plants need patience and care. Henry followed the advice, and over the next few months, his garden flourished. His story illustrates how guidance, learning from mistakes, and perseverance lead to success. Paul and Rachel, a married couple, were discussing household responsibilities. Paul said, Rachel, I think we should organize the cleaning schedules so it is fair for both of us. Rachel agreed. If we divide the tasks and stick to it, our home will feel more organized. By working together, they completed chores efficiently and avoided conflicts. This shows that planning, fairness, and clear communication make daily responsibilities manageable. James wanted to improve his public speaking skills. He joined a local speaking club where members gave speeches and received feedback. At first, he was nervous and stumbled over words. But one member, Mr. Clark, encouraged him. James, your ideas are clear. Just focus on speaking slowly and making eye contact. James practiced regularly,
followed the advice and gradually became confident. This example shows how consistent effort and feedback help us grow. In a library, two students, Emily and Noah, were preparing for a group project. Emily said to Noah, "Noah, we need to divide the research tasks so we finish on time." Noah replied, "Good idea. I'll focus on the background research and you can handle the analysis." By organizing their work and communicating clearly, they finished successfully. This highlights the importance of teamwork and planning in academic and professional tasks. Alex loved cooking international dishes. One day, he decided to make a traditional recipe from another country. He researched ingredients, followed the instructions carefully, and invited his wife Laura to taste the dish. Laura said, "Alex, this is delicious. I can tell you put a lot of effort into it." Alex felt proud and satisfied. His story teaches that curiosity, effort, and sharing experiences bring joy and learning. In a coffee shop, two friends, Hannah and David, were talking. Hannah said, "David, I've been trying to improve my time management skills." David replied, "Have you tried making a schedule and prioritizing tasks?" Hannah nodded. "Yes, and it's helping me stay more focused and productive." This conversation shows that sharing experiences and strategies helps people learn from each other. Michael and Sophie decided to redecorate their living room. Michael suggested, "Let's choose a color that makes the room feel warm and welcoming." Sophie added, "I agree. We can also rearrange the furniture to create more space." By working together and sharing ideas, they transformed the room beautifully. Their story shows how collaboration and shared vision can enhance creativity and relationships. In a workplace, Claire's team was preparing for an important client meeting. Ben, one of the team members, noticed an error in the report. Instead of panicking, he calmly said, "Claire, I found something we can correct before the meeting." Claire thanked him and they updated the report just in time. The client was impressed with the accuracy. This demonstrates that attention to detail and teamwork lead to professional success. Olivia and Sam, two colleagues, were handling a challenging week. Olivia said, "Sam, I feel overwhelmed by the number of tasks." Sam replied, "I understand. Let's make a priority list and tackle them step by step." By organizing their workload and supporting each other, they finished efficiently. This conversation shows how collaboration and problem-solving skills reduce stress and improve productivity. Daniel wanted to learn to play the guitar. At first it was difficult, but he practiced daily. His friend, Mr. Harris, who was an experienced guitarist, advised him, "Focus on the basics first, and then gradually try more complex pieces." Daniel followed the advice and over time became proficient. His story teaches that patience, consistency, and guidance are essential for learning new skills. In a bookstore, a customer named Emma asked the clerk, "Could you recommend a good book for improving my English?" The clerk replied, "Yes, Emma, this book has practical examples and easy exercises." Emma smiled. "Thank you. I will try it and practice every day." This dialogue shows that seeking guidance and using the right resources helps learners achieve their goals. Richard and Laura planned a weekend hiking trip. Richard said, "We should pack snacks and water for the trail." Laura added, "Good idea. Let's also check the weather and wear comfortable shoes." They prepared carefully, enjoyed the hike, and had meaningful conversations along the way. Their story highlights how planning, attention to detail, and shared activities strengthen relationships. At a community event, volunteers were organizing a local charity drive. One volunteer, Sarah, noticed supplies were running low. She quickly informed the team leader, who arranged for more supplies. The event continued smoothly, and the community appreciated their efforts. This shows that awareness and proactive thinking create positive outcomes. Isabella decided to start a new morning routine to feel more energetic. She woke up earlier, drank a glass of water, and took a short walk each day. After a week, her husband Thomas noticed the change. "Isabella, you seem happier and more energetic. What changed?" She replied, "I started a small morning routine and it helps me feel ready for the day." Thomas joined her, and together they enjoyed the benefits of this habit. Their experience shows how small, consistent changes can improve daily life. Nathan and Olivia, colleagues at work, were preparing for a presentation. Nathan said, "I think we need to simplify some of the slides so the message is clear." Olivia agreed. "Yes, focusing on clarity will help the client understand our ideas better." By refining their work together, they delivered the presentation successfully and received positive feedback. This shows that collaboration and clear communication improve professional outcomes. Welcome back. I'm Julia, and I'd like to share more stories and conversations that bring English learning to life in everyday situations. Now, let me tell you about a man named Lucas. Lucas loved traveling, but he often felt anxious about planning trips. One day, he decided to visit a small town known for its historic sites. To prepare, he read travel guides, watched videos about the area, and made a checklist of things to do. When the trip began, he explored the town calmly, visited museums, and enjoyed the local cuisine. He realized that his preparation allowed him to enjoy the experience without stress. This story reminds us that planning ahead can reduce anxiety and make new experiences more enjoyable. Next, let's listen to a conversation between a husband and wife, Adam and Sophie, as they discussed budgeting for their household. Adam said, "Sophie, I think we should track our monthly expenses so we know where our money goes." Sophie replied, "That's a good idea. We can also set a savings goal for the future." By organizing their finances together, they felt more secure and confident in their decisions. This dialogue shows how teamwork and communication make managing shared responsibilities easier. Another story is about a young man named Ethan who wanted to improve his English speaking skills. He joined a conversation club where people practiced English daily. On his first day, he felt nervous and struggled to express his ideas. One participant, Mr. Lewis, encouraged him and said, "Ethan, take your time. Speak slowly and don't worry about mistakes." Over the next few weeks, Ethan practiced regularly, gained confidence, and improved his fluency. This example teaches that patience, encouragement, and practice are essential for progress in language learning. Now, let's imagine a scene in a supermarket. A man named William noticed an elderly customer struggling to reach an item on the top shelf. William said, "Excuse me, may I help you?" The customer smiled and replied, "Thank you very much. I appreciate your help." This small interaction reminds us how simple acts of kindness make everyday life more pleasant and respectful. Here's another story about a couple named Michael and Hannah. They decided to organize a small garden in their backyard. Michael suggested, "Let's plant flowers that bloom all year round." Hannah added, "We can also grow vegetables to use in our meals." They worked together, enjoyed the process, and created a beautiful and useful space. This story highlights how shared activities bring satisfaction and strengthen relationships. Now, let's move into the workplace. Emma and Ryan were working on a complicated report. Emma said, "Ryan, I'm having trouble understanding this section. Can you help?" Ryan replied, "Of course. Let's go through it step by step." With his help, Emma understood the report better and contributed effectively. This shows the importance of teamwork and mutual support in professional environments. Next, a story about Clara, who decided to take up painting as a hobby. At first, she struggled with shapes and colors, but she kept practicing every day. One afternoon, her husband Jason looked at her painting and said, "Clara, this is amazing. You've improved so much." Clara felt proud and motivated to continue. This example shows that persistence and dedication lead to growth and achievement, even in creative endeavors. Now, picture a conversation in a busy cafe between two friends, Liam and Grace. Liam said, "I've been trying to manage my time better, but I feel overwhelmed." Grace replied, "Have you tried making a daily plan and focusing on one task at a time?" Liam said, "I'll try that. It might help me feel less stressed." This conversation shows how sharing strategies with friends can support personal growth. Another story is about a man named Oliver who worked in a busy office. One day, he noticed that a new colleague, Anna, seemed confused about the procedures. Oliver offered, "Anna, I can show you how things work here if you like." Anna appreciated his guidance and quickly adapted to her role. This story highlights how support and mentorship make professional environments stronger. Now, let's listen to David and Emily, a husband and wife planning a family gathering. David said, "Emily, I think we should send invitations early so everyone has time to plan." Emily replied, "Good idea. We can also prepare a menu and ask guests about their preferences." Their careful planning made the gathering enjoyable and stress-free. This dialogue shows how communication and collaboration improve personal events. Next, a story about Jack, a young man who decided to start running every morning to improve his health. At first, he struggled even with short distances. One day, his friend Mr. Parker said, "Jack, start small and increase gradually. Consistency is more important than speed." Jack followed the advice, and over time, he ran longer distances and felt healthier. This story teaches that steady progress and consistency bring long-term results. Now, imagine two colleagues, Sophia and Liam, working on a last-minute project. Sophia said, "Liam, the deadline is tomorrow, and there's still a lot to do." Liam replied, "Let's divide the tasks and focus on the most important parts first." By working efficiently together, they completed the project on time. This conversation shows how focus and teamwork help overcome challenges. Another story is about Daniel and Rachel, a husband and wife who decided to try a new recipe together. Daniel suggested, "Let's cook something different today and make it fun." Rachel replied, "Yes, we can experiment with flavors and enjoy the process." They laughed over small mistakes and enjoyed a delicious dinner. This shows how collaboration and creativity make shared activities enjoyable. At a community center, volunteers were preparing an event for children. One volunteer, Sophie, noticed a problem with the seating arrangement. She quickly informed the team, and they adjusted everything before the event started. The children and parents enjoyed the day, and the teamwork was appreciated. This example shows that observation and quick thinking create positive results in community work. Next, a story about Natalie, who decided to take her first photography class. At first, she was nervous, but her instructor, Mr. Brown, explained everything step by step. Natalie practiced daily, experimented with lighting, and tried different techniques. After a few weeks, she captured beautiful photos and felt proud of her progress. This story reminds us that guidance, practice, and curiosity lead to confidence. Now, imagine two friends, Mark and Olivia, planning a weekend outing. Mark said, "Should we go to the park or visit the museum?" Olivia replied, "Let's visit the museum first, and then we can relax in the park." By discussing their preferences, they enjoyed a balanced and fun day together. This shows how communication and compromise make shared experiences better. Here's another story about Ethan, who wanted to improve his cooking skills. He researched recipes, watched tutorials, and tried new ingredients. His wife Clara tasted his dishes and said, "Ethan, these are delicious. I appreciate your effort to cook healthy meals for us." Ethan felt motivated and continued practicing. This story highlights how effort and learning strengthen both skills and relationships. Now, picture a scene in a bookstore. A student named Alice was looking for reference books. The store clerk said, "Alice, I can help you find the books you need for your course." Alice replied, "Thank you. That would save me a lot of time." With polite communication and guidance, she found the resources efficiently. This interaction shows the value of seeking help. Next, a story about Thomas and Emily, who decided to redecorate their home office. Thomas suggested, "Let's arrange the furniture so we have more space to work comfortably." Emily replied, "Yes, and we can add some plants for a better atmosphere." They created a pleasant and functional workspace together. This shows how collaboration and creativity improve both work and living spaces. Now, let's hear a conversation between two colleagues, Rachel and David. Rachel said, "David, the client has very specific expectations. How should we handle it? David replied, let's prepare a clear plan and anticipate their questions. Together, they met the client's expectations successfully. This example highlights preparation and teamwork in professional settings. Another story is about Mitchell, who decided to start learning a new language. He practiced daily, joined a conversation group, and worked on pronunciation. At first, he struggled, but with consistent effort, he improved significantly. His wife, Laura, noticed his progress and said, "Michael, you're doing great. Keep practicing." This shows that persistence and practice lead to growth. Finally, let me share a story about Victor. He realized he was spending too much time on his phone in the mornings, which left him feeling rushed and unproductive. Victor decided to wake up an hour earlier and dedicate that time to reading, stretching, and planning his day. One morning, his wife Laura noticed the change and said, "Victor, you seem more focused and calm. This routine really suits you." Victor replied, "Yes, small changes like this make a big difference." Laura joined him for morning walks, and together they created a routine that boosted both their mood and energy. This story shows that small, intentional changes can transform daily life in meaningful ways. Welcome back to English Without Limit. I'm your host, Julia. Next, let's listen to a dialogue between two colleagues, Samuel and Olivia, who were brainstorming ideas for a marketing campaign. Samuel said, "Olivia, I think we should focus on storytelling to engage our audience." Olivia replied, "That's a great idea. Let's also include real-life examples to make it relatable." By combining their ideas, they created a campaign that was both creative and effective. This conversation shows how collaboration and sharing ideas lead to better outcomes. Now let's move to a story about a young woman named Clara, who decided to start journaling. She wanted to reflect on her daily experiences and set goals for personal growth. Clara wrote every night before bed, noting things she was grateful for and challenges she faced. Her husband, Ethan, noticed her positive attitude and asked, "Clara, what changed?" She replied, "Journaling helps me see things clearly and focus on solutions." This story highlights the power of self-reflection and consistency in improving mindset and well-being. In a busy coffee shop, a man named Daniel noticed that a customer had accidentally dropped a wallet. He picked it up and said, "Excuse me, I think this belongs to you." The customer, relieved, thanked him warmly. This interaction shows how simple acts of honesty and attentiveness can make a big difference in everyday life. There's also the story of a husband and wife, Alex and Rachel, who decided to redecorate their living room. Alex suggested, "Rachel, let's choose colors that make the space feel warm and inviting." Rachel replied, "I like that idea. We can also add some personal touches with photos and decorations." Together, they planned and completed the renovation. This story demonstrates that cooperation, creativity, and communication enhance shared experiences and strengthen relationships. Another dialogue takes place between two colleagues, Hannah and Liam, who were discussing a project deadline. Hannah said, "Liam, the deadline is approaching and we need to finalize the report." Liam replied, "I suggest we divide the tasks and review each section carefully." By organizing their work and supporting each other, they completed the project on time. This conversation highlights the importance of teamwork, planning, and effective communication in professional settings. Then we hear about Nathan, a young man who wanted to improve his fitness. He started going to the gym 3 times a week and gradually increased the intensity of his workouts. His wife Sophia noticed his energy and said, "Nathan, you look stronger and more confident. This routine is really working." Nathan felt motivated and continued exercising consistently. His story teaches us that dedication, gradual progress, and support from loved ones are key to achieving health goals. In a quiet library, 2 students, Emily and Jack, were preparing for a presentation. Emily said, "Jack, I am worried about explaining this topic clearly." Jack replied, "Let's practice together. I can help you structure your points so it makes sense." By rehearsing and supporting each other, they delivered a confident and organized presentation. This shows the value of preparation, teamwork, and mutual assistance in achieving success. We also meet Peter, a man who loves gardening. He wanted to grow vegetables for the first time. At first, his plants did not thrive, and he felt discouraged. One day, his neighbor, Mrs. Adams, offered advice. "Try changing the soil and watering at different times. Plants need care and patience." Peter followed her suggestions, and over time, his garden flourished. This story demonstrates that learning from others, persistence, and careful attention lead to positive results. At home, Thomas and Emma were discussing weekend plans. Thomas said, "Emma, should we go for a short trip or stay home and relax?" Emma replied, "Let's go for a trip. It will be refreshing and we can plan some outdoor activities." By deciding together, they enjoyed a fulfilling weekend. This conversation highlights how joint decision-making and shared experiences strengthen relationships. Sophia's story is also inspiring. She wanted to improve her cooking skills. She tried different recipes, followed tutorials, and practiced daily. One day, she invited her husband Daniel to taste her new dish. Daniel said, "Sophia, this is delicious. Your effort really shows." Sophia felt encouraged and continued experimenting with new recipes. Her example shows that persistence, practice, and positive feedback motivate personal growth. In a supermarket, Laura noticed that an elderly man was struggling to reach an item on a high shelf. She politely asked, "May I help you?" The man smiled and replied, "Thank you. That's very kind of you." This interaction shows that small gestures of kindness make daily life smoother and more pleasant. Michael and Clara also decided to start exercising together. Michael suggested jogging in the park every morning, and Clara agreed. At first, it was challenging, but over time, their stamina improved, and they enjoyed spending this time together. Michael said, "I feel more energized and happy." Clara added, "It's also a wonderful way to bond and support each other." Their story demonstrates that shared goals and consistent effort strengthen both health and relationships. Another workplace story comes from Rachel and Oliver, who were preparing a client presentation. Rachel said, "Oliver, I think we should simplify the slides and focus on key points." Oliver replied, "Agreed. Clear communication will make the presentation more effective." By combining clarity and preparation, they impressed the client. This conversation emphasizes the importance of teamwork, preparation, and effective communication in achieving success. Henry, on the other hand, decided to take up painting. At first, he struggled with proportions and color choices, but he practiced every day. His wife Laura noticed his improvement and said, "Henry, your paintings are beautiful now. Your hard work shows." Henry felt proud and motivated to continue. This example shows that dedication and consistent practice lead to growth and skill development. In a busy cafe, Liam told his friend Grace, "I've been trying to improve my daily schedule, but I often feel overwhelmed." Grace replied, Have you tried prioritizing tasks and focusing on one thing at a time? Liam said, I'll try that. It sounds manageable. This conversation demonstrates that sharing advice and practical strategies helps personal development. Kevin's journey also inspires us. He decided to learn a new language. He practiced speaking daily, joined conversation groups, and used online tools. At first, he made many mistakes, but over time, his fluency improved. His wife Emma said, Kevin, I can see your progress. Keep practicing and you will improve even faster. This story shows that consistency, patience, and support from loved ones are key to learning effectively. Daniel and Sophia worked together on a home renovation project. Daniel said, Sophia, we should focus on the living room first. Sophia replied, I agree. Let's also choose colors and furniture that create a cozy atmosphere. By planning and working together, they completed the project successfully. Their story highlights how cooperation, communication, and a shared vision improve outcomes in everyday projects. Oliver, too, wanted to improve his public speaking skills. He joined a speaking club and practiced regularly. One member, Mr. Harris, advised, speak slowly, focus on clarity, and maintain eye contact. Oliver followed the advice and gradually gained confidence. His story demonstrates that guidance, practice, and persistence are essential for mastering new skills. Emma and Ryan also showed how teamwork makes a difference. Emma said, Ryan, I am unsure about this section of the report. Ryan replied, let's go through it together and break it down. By collaborating and supporting each other, they finished the report efficiently. This conversation emphasizes teamwork and mutual assistance in achieving professional goals. Then there's Natalie, who decided to learn photography. She practiced daily, experimented with different techniques, and sought advice from her instructor, Mr. Brown. Over time, she captured impressive photos and felt proud of her progress. Her story shows that curiosity, practice, and guidance lead to growth and confidence. In a bookstore, a student named Alice was searching for reference materials. The store clerk said, Alice, I can help you find the books for your course. Alice replied, Thank you, that would save me time. This dialogue shows how asking for help and using available resources improves efficiency and learning. Finally, Thomas and Emily planned a weekend hike. Thomas said, Emily, let's pack water and snacks for the trail. Emily replied, Good idea. We should also check the weather before leaving. They enjoyed the hike and meaningful conversations along the way. Their story highlights how preparation, communication, and shared experiences enhance relationships. Welcome back to English Without Limit. I'm Julia, your host. At a community event, volunteers were organizing activities for children. One volunteer, Sarah, noticed a problem with supplies and immediately informed the team leader. The issue was resolved quickly and the event went smoothly. This example shows how awareness, proactive thinking, and teamwork create positive outcomes in community efforts. There's also the story of a young man named Michael who wanted to improve his writing skills. He practiced daily, wrote short stories, and shared them with his wife, Laura. She offered constructive feedback, and over time, Michael's writing improved significantly. His journey reminds us that consistent practice and supportive feedback help achieve personal growth. Two friends, Mark and Olivia, were planning a cultural outing. Mark asked, "Should we visit the museum or the park first?" Olivia replied, "Let's go to the museum and then relax in the park afterward." By discussing and planning together, they enjoyed a balanced and memorable day. Their conversation shows how communication and compromise enrich shared experiences. Another inspiring example comes from Ethan, who wanted to improve his cooking for healthier meals. He followed tutorials, experimented with ingredients, and practiced regularly. His wife Clara said, "Ethan, these dishes are delicious and I appreciate your effort." Encouraged, Ethan felt motivated to continue learning. His story highlights how effort, consistency, and shared enjoyment foster personal growth. In a library, a student named Olivia was looking for study materials. The librarian said, "I can help you find the books you need." Olivia replied, "Thank you, that will save me time." This interaction shows how asking for help and using resources efficiently supports learning. Daniel and Rachel also worked on redecorating their home office. Daniel suggested arranging the furniture for more space. Rachel added, "Let's also bring in some plants to create a pleasant atmosphere." By collaborating, they improved their workspace effectively. This story shows that teamwork and communication enhance shared projects. In another workplace example, Rachel and David were preparing for a client meeting. Rachel said, "David, the client has specific expectations. How should we approach this?" David replied, "We should prepare a clear plan and anticipate their questions." Their preparation and teamwork impressed the client. This shows how planning and collaboration create professional success. Michael, the same young man from earlier, also decided to learn a new language. He practiced daily, used online tools, and attended conversation sessions. Over time, his fluency improved, and his wife Laura sighed, "Michael, your progress is impressive. Keep practicing, and you will improve even faster." His example shows that persistence, daily effort, and encouragement from loved ones are key to learning effectively. Let's also look at Amelia's story. She wanted to improve her productivity at work, but often got distracted by phone notifications. To change this, Amelia created a clear schedule, turned off unnecessary alerts, and dedicated focused time blocks to important tasks. Her husband David noticed and said, "Amelia, you seem more focused and less stressed lately. What's your secret?" She replied, "I started planning my day and minimizing distractions. It makes a huge difference." Inspired by her improvement, David tried the same approach. Together, they found that structured routines help them stay productive and calm. Their experience demonstrates that small, intentional changes can transform habits and focus. Two colleagues, Sophie and Liam, also learned the value of teamwork. While preparing a complex presentation, Sophie said, "I think we should simplify the content and highlight only the key points." Liam agreed, "That will make it easier for the audience to understand and remember." By combining their ideas, they created a presentation that was clear, engaging, and effective. Benjamin's story takes us to mindfulness. He wanted to reduce stress and began practicing meditation each morning. Just 10 minutes of breathing and focus helped him feel calmer and more patient. His wife Rachel noticed and asked, "Benjamin, you seem more relaxed. What changed?" He replied, "Meditation helps me stay calm even on stressful days." Inspired, she joined him, and together they experienced the benefits of mindfulness. At a supermarket, Ethan noticed a shopper struggling with heavy bags. He offered, "May I help you carry these to your car?" The shopper smiled and said, "Thank you. That's very kind of you." This small gesture shows how helpfulness makes everyday life smoother and more positive. At home, Lucas and Olivia decided to organize a small garden. Lucas suggested planting flowers and herbs that were easy to maintain. Olivia added, "We can also grow some vegetables for our meals." Working together, they created a garden that was both beautiful and practical. Their story demonstrates how cooperation, planning, and shared activities strengthen relationships. In another workplace moment, Ryan and Emily were preparing an urgent report. Ryan said, "The deadline is tight. How should we divide the work?" Emily replied, "Let's prioritize the most critical sections first." By organizing tasks and supporting each other, they completed the report efficiently. This example highlights how planning and mutual support create professional success. Thomas also wanted to improve his fitness.
He began jogging every morning, gradually increasing his distance. His wife, Amelia, said, "Thomas, you look healthier and more confident. This routine really suits you." Encouraged, Thomas kept exercising consistently. His story shows that persistence, gradual progress, and support from loved ones lead to improved health and confidence. In a library, Sophie told her friend Noah, "I'm having trouble understanding this chapter." Noah replied, "Let's go through it together, step by step." With his help, Sophie gained clarity and confidence. This shows the value of teamwork and peer support in learning. Henry loved cooking, but decided to challenge himself with baking bread. At first, his dough didn't rise properly, and he felt discouraged. His neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, advised, "Baking takes patience. Try adjusting the temperature and timing." Henry followed her tips and eventually baked a perfect loaf. His journey shows that patience, guidance, and practice lead to success. Daniel and Clara also had a conversation about their weekend. Daniel asked, "Should we take a short trip or relax at home?" Clara replied, "Let's go on a trip. We can enjoy nature and have new experiences." Together, they planned an enjoyable weekend, showing the importance of communication and shared decision-making. Olivia, a young woman, decided to learn painting. She practiced daily, experimenting with colors and techniques. Her husband, James, noticed and said, "Your paintings are beautiful. I can see your dedication." Encouraged, Olivia kept practicing and grew her skills. Her story shows how persistence and encouragement lead to achievement. At a cafe, Hannah told her friend Liam, "I feel overwhelmed by all the tasks I have this week." Liam suggested, "Try making a list and tackling one task at a time. It will help you stay organized." Hannah agreed and decided to try it. Their exchange shows how sharing strategies helps people manage stress and boost productivity. Oliver, too, found growth through a hobby. He took up photography, explored different styles, and sought feedback from his instructor, Mr. Parker. Over time, his photos improved, and he felt proud of his progress. His example shows that curiosity, practice, and guidance build skill and confidence. In a bookstore, Alice asked for help improving her English. The clerk suggested books with practical exercises and examples. Alice said, "Thank you, that will help me a lot." This shows how asking for help and using the right resources supports learning. Finally, Thomas and Emily decided to go hiking for the first time. Thomas said, "Let's pack water, snacks, and check the weather before we leave." Emily added, "And we should wear comfortable shoes." Together, they enjoyed the hike, explored nature, and had meaningful conversations. Their experience shows that preparation, communication, and shared activities strengthen relationships. Let's continue with more real-life stories, dialogues, and examples that help you learn English naturally, while also giving you ideas you can use in everyday life. Imagine a real-life situation in a community center.
volunteers were organizing a local event for children. One volunteer, Sarah, noticed that supplies were short running. She quickly informed the team leader, and together they arranged for additional materials. The event continued smoothly without disruption. This shows us that observation, quick thinking, and teamwork lead to successful outcomes. Now, let's hear the story of a young man named Michael who wanted to improve his writing. Every day, he wrote short stories and shared them with his wife, Laura. She gave him constructive feedback, pointing out strengths and areas to improve. With time, Michael's writing grew stronger and he became more confident in his abilities. This story reminds us of the value of consistent practice and supportive feedback in personal growth. Here's a dialogue between two friends, Mark and Olivia, who were planning a cultural outing. Mark asked Olivia, "Should we visit the museum or the park first?" Olivia replied, "Let's start with the museum and then we can relax in the park afterward." By communicating and making decisions together, they enjoyed a balanced and memorable day. This shows us how compromise and shared planning improve experiences. Next, let's think about Ethan, a man who wanted to cook healthier meals for himself and his family. He tried new recipes, experimented with ingredients, and practiced often. His wife, Clara, encouraged him by saying, "Ethan, these dishes are delicious and healthy." With her support, Ethan felt motivated to continue learning. This story demonstrates that effort, experimentation, and encouragement strengthen both skills and relationships. Now picture a student named Olivia in the library. She needed reference materials for her studies. The librarian said, "I can help you find the books you need." Olivia replied, "Thank you. That will save me time." This short exchange shows the importance of seeking help and using resources efficiently when learning. Another story takes us to Daniel and Rachel, a husband and wife redecorating their home office. Daniel suggested rearranging the furniture to create more space. Rachel added, "We can also bring in some plants to make it more comfortable." By combining their ideas, they created a functional and pleasant workspace. This shows collaboration and communication in shared projects. Now, let's move into a workplace situation. Two colleagues, Rachel and David, were preparing for a client presentation. Rachel said to David, "The client has specific expectations. How should we approach this?" David replied, "Let's prepare a clear plan and anticipate their questions." Their preparation and teamwork resulted in a successful presentation. This conversation highlights the power of planning and collaboration in professional success. Here's another story about Michael, this time focused on language learning. He practiced every day, used online tools, and joined conversation sessions. Gradually, his fluency improved. His wife Laura encouraged him by saying, "Michael, you've improved so much. Keep practicing." This story shows that consistent effort and support are essential for mastering new skills. Now, imagine Daniel and Sophia planning a home renovation. Daniel suggested, "Let's focus on the living room first." Sophia agreed, and let's choose furniture and colors that make it cozy. By discussing their ideas and working together, they completed the renovation successfully. This demonstrates cooperation, communication, and shared vision in achieving goals.
Next is the story of Oliver, who wanted to improve his public speaking. He joined a speaking club, practiced regularly, and listened carefully to advice from a member named Mr. Harris, who said, "Focus on clarity and maintain eye contact." Oliver followed this advice and became more confident in front of audiences.
This shows how guidance, persistence, and practice help us grow. In another workplace example, Emma and Ryan were working on a report. Emma admitted, "Ryan, I'm struggling with this section." Ryan replied, "Let's review it together and break it down step by step." By collaborating, they completed the report efficiently. This example highlights teamwork and mutual support in achieving professional goals. Now let's meet Natalie, a young woman who discovered her passion for photography. She practiced daily, experimented with new techniques, and sought feedback from experienced photographers. Over time, her skills improved and her confidence grew. This shows us that curiosity, consistent practice, and guidance lead to personal development. Let's move to another story. Simon wanted to improve his productivity during the day. He realized he often wasted time scrolling through social media. To change this habit, he blocked distracting apps and set specific times to check his messages. His wife, Clara, noticed the change and said, "Simon, you seem more focused and less stressed. What did you do?" Simon replied, "I organized my time better and reduced distractions." Clara decided to try the same approach, and together they created a more productive home environment. This shows how small adjustments in daily habits can lead to big improvements. Now imagine Rachel and Daniel preparing a project proposal. Rachel suggested, "Daniel, I think we should highlight the key benefits first to capture attention." Daniel replied, "Great idea. Let's also provide clear examples to support our points." By combining their ideas, they created a compelling proposal that impressed their supervisors. This highlights the value of teamwork and strategic thinking in professional success. Next, we have Sophie, who wanted to improve her mental health. She began journaling each evening, writing down her thoughts and feelings. Her husband, Liam, noticed she seemed calmer and asked, "Sophie, journaling seems to help you. How does it feel?" She answered, "It helps me understand my emotions and feel more in control." Inspired, Liam started journaling as well, and both of them experienced greater calm and mindfulness. This shows how small habits improve emotional well-being. Now imagine a situation in a supermarket. A woman named Emily saw an elderly customer struggling to reach a product on a high shelf. Emily offered, "May I help you with that?" The customer smiled warmly and said, "Thank you. That's very kind." This small gesture reminds us that helpfulness can brighten daily life and make it easier for others. Now let's hear about Michael and Olivia, a husband and wife who wanted to start a home garden. Michael suggested, "Let's plant flowers that bloom year-round and add some herbs." Olivia replied, "Great idea. We can also plant a few vegetables for our meals." Together, they designed a garden that was both practical and beautiful. This shows how collaboration and shared planning enrich daily life. In another workplace story, Emma and Noah were facing a tight deadline. Emma said, "Noah, the report must be finished by tomorrow. How should we divide the work?" Noah replied, "Let's focus on the most critical sections first and review the rest later." By prioritizing and supporting each other, they completed the task efficiently. This shows us the importance of teamwork, organization, and focus under pressure. Next comes the story of Lucas, who wanted to improve his physical fitness. He started exercising regularly, beginning with short workouts and gradually increasing the intensity. His wife, Clara, noticed the change and said, "Lucas, you look healthier and more confident. Keep doing." Encouraged by her support, Lucas stayed consistent with his routine. This story shows how persistence and encouragement lead to better health and self-confidence. Now imagine Alice and Henry, two students studying in the library. Alice said, "Henry, I'm struggling with this topic." Henry replied, "Let's review it together. I can explain it step by step." With teamwork and peer support, they gained clarity and confidence before their exam. Here's another story about Thomas, who wanted to bake bread for the first time. His early attempts failed and he felt frustrated. His neighbor, Mrs. Adams, encouraged him by saying, "Baking requires patience and practice. Try adjusting the timing and ingredients." Thomas followed her advice, and soon he baked a perfect loaf. This story reminds us that patience, persistence, and learning from guidance bring success. Now let's listen to a weekend planning conversation between Daniel and Emily. Daniel asked, "Should we visit the park or go on a short trip?" Emily replied, "Let's go on a trip. It will be refreshing, and we can explore new places." By discussing and deciding together, they enjoyed a fun and fulfilling weekend. This dialogue highlights the importance of communication and shared decision-making. And finally, Natalie wanted to improve her painting. She practiced every day, experimenting with colors and techniques. Her husband James admired her progress and said, "Natalie, your paintings are impressive. Your dedication really shows." Encouraged, Natalie continued to paint and develop her skills further. This shows us that consistent effort and encouragement lead to growth and achievement. Let's explore more real-life situations, stories, and dialogues that help us practice English in a natural and meaningful way. Imagine a conversation in a cafe between two friends, Hannah and Liam. Hannah said, "Liam, I feel overwhelmed with all my tasks this week." Liam replied, "Try prioritizing and handling one task at a time. It will make things manageable." Hannah thought for a moment and said, "I'll do that. It seems practical." This simple exchange shows how advice and shared strategies can help us manage stress and stay productive. Now, let's hear the story of Oliver, a man who decided to take up photography. He explored different techniques, practiced consistently, and sought feedback from his instructor, Mr. Parker. Over time, Oliver captured high-quality photos and felt proud of his progress. This story highlights that curiosity, regular practice, and guidance lead to skill development and confidence. Now, picture a student named Alice in a bookstore. She asked the clerk, "I need books to improve my English skills." The clerk replied, "I can recommend books with practical exercises and examples." Alice smiled and said, "Thank you. That will help me a lot." This short interaction reminds us that asking for help in using resources is an important part of learning. Now let's move to a husband and wife, Thomas and Rachel, planning a weekend hike. Thomas said, "Rachel, let's pack water, snacks, and check the weather." Rachel added, "Good idea. Comfortable shoes are also important." Together, they prepared well and enjoyed the hike, explored nature, and had meaningful conversations. This shows how preparation, communication, and shared experiences strengthen relationships. At a community center, volunteers organized an event for children. One volunteer, Sarah, noticed a shortage of materials and quickly informed the team leader. Extra supplies were arranged and the event ran smoothly. This example shows us that observation, initiative, and teamwork create positive outcomes. Here's another story about Michael, a young man who wanted to improve his writing. Every day he practiced by writing short stories and sharing them with his wife Laura. She gave him constructive feedback, and over time his writing improved. With this consistent effort, Michael gained confidence in his skills. This reminds us of the power of practice and supportive feedback. Now, let's listen to two friends planning a cultural outing. Mark asked, "Olivia, should we visit the museum or the park first?" Olivia replied, "Let's start with the museum, then relax in the park afterward." By discussing and planning together, they created a day that was both balanced and memorable. This shows how communication and compromise make shared experiences more enjoyable. Next is the story of Ethan, who wanted to cook healthier meals. He practiced new recipes, tried different ingredients, and received encouragement from his wife, Clara. She told him, "Ethan, these dishes are delicious and healthy. I appreciate your effort." This motivated him to keep learning. This story demonstrates how persistence, experimentation, and support bring growth and joy. Imagine a scene in a library. A student named Olivia needed reference materials. The librarian said, "I can help you find the books you need." Olivia replied, "Thank you, that will save me time." This short exchange shows that seeking help and using resources effectively makes learning more productive. Now, a husband and wife, Daniel and Rachel, decided to redecorate their home office. Daniel suggested rearranging the furniture for more space, and Rachel added, "We can also add plants for a pleasant atmosphere." By combining their ideas, they created a workspace that was both functional and enjoyable. This reminds us that collaboration and communication improve shared projects. Let's shift to the workplace. Two colleagues, Rachel and David, were preparing for a client presentation. Rachel said, "David, the client has specific expectations. How should we approach this?" David replied, "Let's prepare a clear plan and anticipate their questions." Their preparation paid off, and the presentation was a success. This example shows that planning and teamwork are keys to professional success. Here's another story about Michael, this time about learning a new language. He practiced daily, attended conversation sessions, and used online tools. Slowly, his fluency improved. His wife, Laura, encouraged him by saying, "Michael, you've improved so much. Keep practicing." This shows us that consistent effort and encouragement are essential for effective learning. Now, let's hear from Daniel and Sophia, a couple planning a home renovation. Daniel said, "Sophia, let's focus on the living room first." Sophia replied, "Agreed. Let's choose furniture and colors to make it cozy." Together, they created a welcoming space. This story highlights the importance of cooperation, communication, and shared vision. Next, Oliver wanted to improve his public speaking. He joined a speaking club and practiced regularly. One member, Mr. Harris, gave him advice. Focus on clarity, speak slowly, and maintain eye contact. Oliver followed this advice and grew confident in speaking. This story shows that guidance, practice, and persistence are essential for building new skills. In another workplace situation, Emma and Ryan were working on a report. Emma admitted, "Ryan, I'm struggling with this section." Ryan replied, "Let's review it together and break it down." With collaboration, they finished their report efficiently. This reminds us of the value of teamwork and mutual support. Now, Natalie was a young woman learning photography. She practiced daily, tried different techniques, and sought feedback from others. With time, her photos improved and she became more confident. This example shows us that curiosity, consistent effort, and feedback are the pathways to growth. Let's turn to a couple named Oliver and Grace. They dreamed of opening a small bakery in their town. At first, they started with a simple stand at the weekend market. Oliver baked fresh bread and Grace made cakes and cookies. In the beginning, few people came, but week after week, they improved their products, listened to customer feedback, and added new items. Slowly, people noticed their passion. One customer told them, "Your bread tastes like home. It reminds me of my childhood." That moment filled them with pride and motivation. This story shows that patience, consistency, and listening to feedback can turn small beginnings into meaningful success. Now let's move into another workplace example. A manager named Henry noticed his team was tired and unmotivated. He called a short meeting to listen to their concerns. One employee, Emma, said, "Henry, "The deadlines are too tight and we don't get enough breaks." Henry thanked her for being honest and replied, "Let's work together to adjust the schedule." Soon they created a new plan with realistic deadlines and short breaks. The team's energy improved, and so did the quality of work. This example shows us the importance of listening and creating a healthy work environment. Now, imagine a man named David who moved to a new city for work. He often felt lonely after hours. One day, he joined a local community group that cleaned the park every Saturday. At first, he was shy and didn't speak much, but over time, he began talking with people, sharing stories, and even making friends. One member, Mr. Lee, told him, "When you help your community, you find your place in it." David realized that helping others made him feel at home. This story reminds us that contributing to the community creates connections and belonging. Now, let's step into a classroom. A teacher, Mrs. Brown, noticed that a student named Anna was very quiet during discussions. After class, she gently asked, "Anna, do you find the lessons difficult?" Anna replied, "I understand them, but I'm afraid of making mistakes when I speak." Mrs. Brown smiled and said, "Mistakes are part of learning. Every mistake helps you grow." Encouraged, Anna began participating more, and her confidence grew. This example shows how encouragement from teachers can make a big difference. Next, here's a dialogue between two neighbors. Mr. Carter said, "Mrs. Wilson, I see you working in your garden often. Your flowers always look so healthy. How do you do it?" Mrs. Wilson replied, "I take a few minutes every day to water them, check them, and remove any dry leaves. It's the small daily care that makes the difference." Mr. Carter followed her advice, and after a few weeks, he noticed his own garden looked better. This conversation shows us that small, regular efforts often create big results. And finally, let's take a trip with a family. Adam, his wife Sarah, and their 2 children planned a road trip across the countryside. Adam made sure the car was ready, and Sarah packed healthy snacks and water. Along the way, they saw hills, farms, and villages. At one stop, they met Mrs. Harper, an old shopkeeper, who shared stories about the town's history. The children listened with excitement and asked many questions. The family realized that traveling is not only about reaching a destination, it's also about the people you meet and the lessons you learn along the journey. Now, let's move to another workplace example. A young woman named Clara worked in an office where deadlines were often very tight. She sometimes felt anxious because the tasks seemed endless. One day, her colleague, James, noticed her stress and said, "Clara, let's divide the work and focus on one section at a time. That way, it won't feel overwhelming." Clara agreed, and together they finished their project ahead of schedule. Clara later said, "James, I feel so much better working this way. Thank you for your support." This story shows us how teamwork and shared responsibility can reduce stress and create better results. Now imagine a scene in a grocery store. An elderly man was struggling to carry a heavy bag. A young woman named Emma noticed and said kindly, "Let me help you with that." The man smiled and replied, "Thank you, young lady. People like you make the world better." This small gesture of kindness turned a difficult moment into a positive memory. It teaches us that even small acts of help can brighten someone's day. Now, let's hear about a student named Daniel. Daniel wanted to improve his English listening skills. Instead of just studying from books, he decided to listen to podcasts and watch movies with subtitles. At first, he found it difficult to keep up, but slowly he began to understand more. One evening he told his friend, "I understood almost the entire film today without reading the subtitles." His friend replied, "That's amazing progress, Daniel. Keep going." This example reminds us that persistence and exposure to real-life practice build confidence and improvement. Now let's hear about a family story. Rachel and her husband Thomas decided to spend less time on their phones during dinner. At first, it felt unusual because they were used to checking messages all the time. But after a few evenings, they realized they were talking more, laughing more, and enjoying meals together. Rachel said, "Thomas, this feels so much better. We are really connecting." He agreed, saying, "Yes, it feels like we have more time for each other." This story shows how small lifestyle changes can strengthen family bonds. Now let's picture a community sports day. Children and parents gathered at the local park for friendly games and races. One boy, Liam, was nervous before the race. His father encouraged him, "Just do your best. Winning is not the most important thing." Liam ran, gave his full effort, and even though he did not win first place, he smiled proudly. His father hugged him and said, "I am proud of you for trying." This moment shows that encouragement and participation matter more than the final result. Next, imagine a young woman named Olivia learning to play the piano. At first, her hands felt stiff and she made many mistakes, but her teacher reminded her, "Practice slowly. Every note you play correctly is progress." Week after week, Olivia practiced with patience. Finally, she played her first song without mistakes. Her parents clapped and said, "Olivia, that was wonderful." This story shows us that patience, practice, and support from others turn challenges into achievements. Now, let's move to a workplace conversation. Two colleagues, Henry and Sophia, were preparing for a meeting. Henry said, "Sophia, I think the client wants clear solutions, not just ideas." Sophia replied, "You're right. Let's prepare a list of specific actions we can recommend." During the meeting, the client was impressed by their clarity and organization. Afterwards, Sophia said, "Henry, teamwork really made the difference." This dialogue highlights how collaboration and focus bring professional success. Finally, imagine a story about a young boy named Ethan who loved reading. His mother noticed his passion and took him to the library every weekend. One day, Ethan told the librarian, "I want a book about space and planets." The librarian smiled and gave him a book filled with pictures and facts. Ethan spent hours reading and later told his mother, "I want to be an astronaut someday." This story reminds us how encouragement and access to knowledge can inspire big dreams. Here is another workplace dialogue. A young engineer named Lucas had a new idea to improve the design of a product. He went to his supervisor, Mrs. Patel, and said, "I believe we can make the product more efficient if we change the material here." Mrs. Patel looked at his plan and replied, "This is interesting, Lucas. Let us discuss this with the team in the next meeting." After some discussions and small adjustments, the team approved his idea, and the company saved both time and money. This situation shows that sharing ideas, even as a new team member, can create positive change. Let us talk about a farmer named Robert, who faced a big problem. One summer, his crops were not growing well because of less rain. Instead of giving up, he decided to learn about new farming methods from a nearby agricultural center. He tried a new technique to save water and protect the soil. After a few months, his field started to recover. One of his neighbors said, "Robert, I am impressed with how you turned the situation around." Robert replied, "I just kept learning and tried something new." This story shows the power of adapting and learning in difficult times. Now, here is a conversation between a husband and wife, Ethan and Maria, about managing their monthly budget. Ethan said, "Maria, we have been spending a bit more than we planned recently. Maybe we should track our expenses more carefully." Maria replied, "That is a good idea. Let us write down what we spend each week and set a small savings goal." They started this simple habit, and within a few months, they managed to save enough for a small home improvement project. This dialogue teaches that open discussions about money and shared goals can make a family's life more stable. Finally, I want to share a story about a student named Lily who wanted to improve her English writing skills. She joined a local writing club that met every weekend. At first, her essays were very simple and had many mistakes, but the club members, including a kind retired teacher named Mr. Johnson, gave her feedback every week. He once said, "Lily, do not be afraid to write more. Each page you write makes you better." After 6 months, her writing became clear, and she even won a small school writing competition. This story reminds us that steady practice and constructive feedback lead to improvement. Let me share a story about a husband and wife, Nathan and Clara. They had been living in a busy city for many years, always rushing from one task to another. One day, they decided to spend an entire weekend without using their phones or computers. Instead, they went for a walk in the park, cooked meals together, and read books they had left untouched for a long time. On Sunday evening, Clara said to Nathan, "Nathan, I feel like this weekend gave us more time than any other. It feels lighter without constant notifications." Nathan nodded and replied, "Sometimes slowing down helps us connect more with each other and with ourselves." This story shows that taking breaks from technology can refresh your mind and improve relationships. Now, let us move to a workplace story. A manager named Rachel was leading a team on a new project. One of her team members, Simon, was always finishing his work on time but never shared new ideas. During a team meeting, Rachel asked him, "Simon, you complete your tasks well, but I think you have more to share. What are your thoughts on how we can improve this process?" Simon hesitated at first, but then he suggested a small change that saved everyone hours of work each week. Rachel said, "Thank you, Simon. Your idea made a real difference." This example shows that encouraging people to speak up can bring unexpected improvements. Next, here is a story about a man named Paul who wanted to stay healthy as he got older. He wasn't a fan of gyms or heavy exercise, so he decided to start with something simple, walking every morning. At first, it felt difficult, especially on cold mornings, but he kept going. After a few weeks, he noticed that his energy increased, his sleep improved, and even his mood felt lighter. One day, his neighbor asked, "Paul, what is your secret for staying active?" Paul smiled and said, "Just 20 minutes of walking every day. It's small, but it adds up." This story teaches us that small, consistent habits can create big changes. Now, let us hear a dialogue between two friends, George and Martin, about learning new skills. George said, "Martin, you always seem to pick up new skills so quickly. How do you do it?" Martin replied, "I start by focusing on one thing at a time. I practice a little every day and I don't rush. Progress comes slowly, but it comes." George thought about this and started to apply the same approach to his own learning. Over a few months, he became much better at managing his time and sticking to new habits. This dialogue shows the value of patience and consistency when learning anything new. Here's another story from a family setting. Emily and her husband James had a small daughter who often wanted their attention. One evening, while James was busy reading work emails, Emily said, "James, let us spend this evening without screens and just play with her." They built a small tower with wooden blocks, read a short story, and laughed together. Their daughter fell asleep early, smiling. James said, "I didn't realize how much I was missing these simple moments." This story reminds us that the best memories often come from simple activities shared with loved ones. Now, I want to share a community example. A man named Frank noticed that the local park near his house was full of litter after weekends. Instead of complaining, he printed a small sign that said, "Help keep our park clean. Take your trash with you." He also started cleaning a small area every Sunday morning. A few weeks later, more neighbors joined him. One of them said, "Frank, your small action encouraged us all." The park became cleaner and the community felt more connected. This example shows that one person's action can inspire many others. Let us listen to a story about a woman named Hannah who wanted to learn public speaking. She always felt nervous when speaking in front of a group. One day, she joined a small local speaking club. At first, her hands shook and her voice was quiet, but she kept attending, practicing with supportive members. One of them, Mr. Harris, told her, "Each time you speak, you get stronger. Do not wait for perfection. Just keep going." After a few months, Hannah was able to give a full 5-minute talk without fear. This story teaches that courage grows with practice and support. Next, here is a dialogue between two colleagues, Laura and Peter, about solving a workplace conflict. Laura said, "Peter, I notice we have been misunderstanding each other about the report deadlines." Peter replied, "Yes, I think we were both assuming different dates. How about we create a shared calendar?" Laura agreed, and they updated their schedules together. The small change prevented future arguments and made their team work smoother. This dialogue highlights how simple communication can solve many problems before they grow. Now, let us go to a story about a man named Isaac who decided to grow his own vegetables. He had never tried gardening before, but he wanted to eat more fresh food. He read guides, bought seeds, and prepared a small space in his backyard. At first, not all plants survived. Some dried up and others grew very slowly, but he learned from each attempt. After a season, he harvested his first basket of fresh tomatoes and lettuce. His wife said, "Isaac, this tastes better than anything from the store." He replied, "Because it's made with care and patience." This story shows the rewards of learning through trial and error. Finally, here is a story about a young teacher named Claire who worked in a small rural school. Many of her students came from farming families and often missed classes during harvest season. Instead of punishing them for absence, Claire created flexible lessons and even visited some of the farms to teach in the afternoons. One of the parents said, "Claire, you make education possible for our children." This approach helped students continue learning without pressure, and their results improved over the year. This story is an example of adapting to real situations instead of forcing a single method on everyone. Let me share a story about a couple named Samuel and Irene, who decided to move to a quieter town after many years in a busy city. Samuel worked in an office and Irene was a school teacher. When they arrived in their new town, they noticed that people greeted each other on the streets, and neighbors often offered help without being asked.
One day, their neighbor, Mr. Cooper, knocked on their door with a basket of fresh apples. He said, "These are from my garden. Welcome to the neighborhood." Irene replied, "Thank you so much. This is the kind of kindness we were hoping to find here." Over time, they became part of a friendly community. And Samuel said to his wife, sometimes a change of place gives you a better life than a change of things. This story shows how moving to a peaceful environment can bring positive changes to daily life. Now, here is a workplace situation. A team was working on an important project with a strict deadline. The project leader, Anna, noticed that one of her teammates, Robert, was staying late every evening. She approached him and said, "Robert, I appreciate your hard work, but you also need rest. We cannot have a strong team if people are too tired." Robert admitted, "I just wanted to make sure everything is perfect." Anna replied, "Perfection is good, but health is more important. Let's share the work more evenly." They redistributed the tasks, and the whole team finished the project on time without exhaustion. This story shows that good leadership cares for both the results and the people. Next, let us talk about a man named Daniel who wanted to reconnect with his old friends. After many years of focusing on work, he realized that his social life had become very quiet. One weekend, he called his old school friend Henry and said, "I was thinking about the times we used to meet at the park. Why don't we organize a small get-together?" Henry agreed, and they invited a few more friends. They met in a simple picnic spot, shared stories about their lives, and laughed about their childhood memories. Daniel said, "I forgot how good it feels to just sit with friends and talk." This story shows that sometimes rebuilding friendships only needs one person to take the first step. Here is a dialogue between two sisters, Olivia and Jane, about household responsibilities. Olivia said, "Jane, we always wait until the weekend to clean the house, and then it feels like too much work. How about we divide the chores during the week?" Jane replied, "That makes sense. I can do the kitchen on Monday and Thursday, and you can handle the laundry on Wednesday." Olivia agreed. And after a few weeks, the house felt cleaner without heavy weekend work. This example shows how sharing responsibilities and planning ahead can make life more balanced. Now let us look at a story from a small shop. The shop owner, Mrs. Grant, noticed that her sales were going down. She talked with her assistant, Leo, and said, "I think people are not finding what they need here. Let us ask our regular customers what they would like to see." Over the next few days, they asked for feedback and learned that many people wanted fresh fruits and simple household items. Mrs. Grant added these to her shop, and soon more customers started coming again. One customer said, "Thank you for listening to us. Now I can buy everything I need in one place." This story shows that listening to people's needs often brings improvement in business. Here is another workplace conversation. A new employee named Carla joined a large company. On her first week, she felt lost because she did not know the office rules and schedules. Her colleague, Marcus, noticed her confusion and said, "Carla, would you like me to show you how things work here?" Carla smiled and replied, "Yes, that would help a lot." Marcus gave her a simple guide and even introduced her to a few other colleagues. After that, Carla felt more comfortable and started working more confidently. This shows how a small act of kindness can make a new person feel included and valued. Next, let us hear about a husband and wife, Patrick and Helen, who planned to build a small vegetable garden behind their house. Patrick prepared the soil, while Helen chose the seeds. At first, the garden did not grow as they expected. Some plants dried, and others grew unevenly. Helen said, "Maybe we planted them too close together." Patrick agreed and suggested, "Let us rearrange them and give them more space." After a few weeks of care and small adjustments, the garden began to look green and healthy. Their children loved picking fresh vegetables for dinner, and the whole family felt proud of their teamwork. This story demonstrates that small adjustments, collaboration, and patience can lead to successful results.
Here is a travel-related story. A young man named Ethan wanted to explore his own country more deeply. Instead of always seeking distant trips, he chose a small historic town nearby and went there by train. In the town, he visited a museum, spoke to a local historian, and tried a traditional dish prepared by an old restaurant owner. She told him stories about the town's past and how recipes had been passed down for generations. Ethan returned home with a new perspective. He said to his friend, "Traveling far is exciting, but sometimes the best lessons are close to home." This story shows that meaningful experiences don't always require distant places. Let us move to a school situation. A boy named Noah was struggling with mathematics. His teacher, Mr. Allen, noticed that Noah often looked frustrated during class. After school, he called him aside and said, "Noah, I see you trying hard, but maybe the way we explain things is not clear for you. Let us try a different method." They worked together with visual examples and small exercises. Within a month, Noah started to improve and even began helping his classmates. One day, he said, "I never thought I could enjoy this subject." This story shows that finding the right approach can change how we feel about learning. Finally, here's a story about a retired craftsman named Mr. Davis, who loved making wooden furniture. After retiring, he started teaching a few young people in his neighborhood how to build simple chairs and tables. One of them, a boy named Liam, said, "Mr. Davis, I never knew I would enjoy this so much. Thank you for teaching me." Mr. Davis replied, "Skills are meant to be shared. When you pass them on, they live longer." This example shows how sharing knowledge benefits both the teacher and the learner, creating a bridge between generations. There was a man named Andrew who always dreamed of opening a small bookshop. He loved reading and wanted to create a place where people could sit, read, and have a cup of tea. After saving money for a few years, he finally rented a small shop in his town. At first, not many customers came, but Andrew didn't give up. He organized small reading sessions for children on weekends and invited local writers to share their stories. Slowly, the shop became a meeting place for people who loved books. One evening, a woman named Clara said, "Andrew, your shop feels warm and welcoming. I come here not just to buy books, but to find peace." Andrew smiled and felt proud of his effort. This story shows that creating something meaningful often takes time and steady commitment. Now, let us move to an office story. A team was preparing an important presentation for potential clients. The leader, Victoria, noticed that her colleague Thomas was struggling with public speaking. She asked him, "Thomas, would you like to practice your part with me before the meeting?" Thomas agreed, and they practiced together several times. On the day of the presentation, Thomas spoke clearly and confidently. After the meeting, the clients gave positive feedback, and Thomas said, "Thank you, Victoria. Your support made a big difference." This example shows how a little help and teamwork can build confidence in others. Next, here is a story about a husband and wife, George and Anna, who faced a challenge with their old house roof leaking during heavy rain. Instead of waiting for someone else to fix it, George decided to learn basic repair skills. He watched tutorials, asked a neighbor for advice, and bought the necessary tools. Together, he and Anna repaired the damaged parts step by step. When the next rain came, the roof stayed dry. Anna said, "George, I am proud of how we handled this together." This story shows that learning practical skills can save money and bring a sense of achievement. Here is a dialogue between two friends, Michael and Stephen, about managing their time better. Michael said, "Stephen, I always feel like I do not have enough time for exercise." Stephen replied, I had the same problem, but I started waking up 30 minutes earlier. It gives me a fresh start for the day. Michael thought about it and tried the same routine. Within a month, he noticed he had more energy at work and felt less stressed. This conversation teaches that small changes in routine can create positive results. Let us hear a community story. In a small neighborhood, a water pipe broke and many houses did not have running water for 2 days. Instead of complaining, a group of neighbors led by a man named Jacob collected clean water from a nearby supply and shared it with everyone, especially the elderly families. When the problem was finally fixed, the neighbor said, "Jacob, your effort kept us comfortable during those days." Jacob replied, "We all helped each other. That is what makes a neighborhood strong." This story shows that unity and cooperation turn problems into opportunities for connection. Now let us look at a school situation. A teacher named Mrs. White noticed that some students were not participating in group projects. She called one student, Sophia, and asked, "Why do you stay quiet during group work?" Sophia said, "I am worried my ideas are not good enough." Mrs. White replied, "Every idea is worth sharing. Group work is about building together, not being perfect." After this talk, Sophia started sharing small suggestions, and soon the group appreciated her creativity. This story shows how encouragement from a teacher can help students grow. Next, there is a story about a man named Henry who worked as a driver. Every morning, he picked up school children and made sure they arrived safely. One winter day, the bus broke down in the middle of the road. The children were cold and worried. Henry stayed calm and said, "Do not worry. We will stay warm inside and wait for help. I have already called the repair service." He kept the children engaged with simple riddles and small stories until help arrived. When the parents heard about his calm response, they thanked him for his care. This story shows the power of staying calm during unexpected events. Here is another workplace example. A designer named Laura had an idea for a new project, but was afraid her manager, Mr. Brown, would not accept it. One afternoon, she gathered her thoughts and said, "Mr. Brown, may I show you a concept that might improve our product?" Mr. Brown listened carefully and said, "Laura, this is creative. Let us test it on a small scale first." They tried it, and the results were successful. This situation shows that sharing ideas respectfully can open doors to innovation. Let us move to a family moment. A father named Peter wanted to spend more time with his son Daniel, who loved drawing, instead of just asking about school every evening. Peter started sitting with him at the table and drawing together. One evening, Daniel said, "Dad, I like when we do this. It makes me happy." Peter realized that a few minutes of focused time created a stronger bond than hours of distracted presence. This story reminds us that quality time often matters more than quantity. Finally, here is a story about a retired nurse named Mrs. Jenkins who wanted to stay active after retirement. She started volunteering at a local health clinic once a week. She helped people with simple advice on healthy eating and hygiene. One young mother said, "Your tips helped my children avoid frequent colds this winter." Mrs. Jenkins replied, "I am happy to share what I learned during my career." This example shows that sharing experience benefits both the giver and the receiver, keeping knowledge alive in a useful way. As we come to the end of today's stories and conversations, we can see a clear pattern emerging. Every example, whether from families, schools, workplaces, or communities, reminds us of the power of small actions, consistent effort, and thoughtful communication. From practicing consistently, to staying curious, to communicating clearly, and helping where you can, progress and happiness often come not from grand gestures, but from patience, persistence, and collaboration. Notice how every story highlights one simple truth. Growth and success, whether personal, professional, or communal, are built step by step through curiosity, courage, and caring for others. Listening, sharing ideas, and offering support can transform ordinary moments into meaningful achievements. So, as you go about your day, remember these lessons. Practice consistently, stay curious, communicate clearly, and help where you can. Every small effort counts. Every kind word matters, and every thoughtful action builds a better life, not just for you, but for everyone around you. This is Julia reminding you that English learning, personal growth, and life itself are journeys made richer by connection, reflection, and continuous effort. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep creating your own stories of progress.
Hello, and welcome to English Without Limit. I'm your host, Julia, and in this podcast, we explore English through real stories, natural conversations, and everyday situations. Each episode is designed to help you listen, learn, and enjoy English in a relaxed and engaging way. Today, I have several stories and dialogues to share with you. Each one carries a lesson, not just about language, but about life. Let's begin with the story of a man named David. David works as a manager in a large office. One morning, he received an urgent email from his boss. The task was clear: prepare a detailed report by the end of the day. David was already very busy. He thought about taking a shortcut by copying some old data from last month's report. As he worked, his colleague Sarah noticed. She leaned over and said gently, "David, it might be faster to copy the old data, but if your boss finds out, it could cause real trouble." David paused. He weighed the risk. Then he made a choice. He decided to stay honest and use the correct data. It took him longer, but by the afternoon, his report was accurate and complete. When his boss reviewed it, he was impressed by the precision and detail. David realized that integrity at work is always noticed and always valued. This story teaches us that honesty may take more time, but it builds trust and respect. Now, let's move to a conversation between Michael and Emma, a married couple planning a weekend trip. Michael said, "Emma, I think we should leave early in the morning to avoid traffic." Emma smiled. "That's a good idea. I'll prepare breakfast so we can eat on the way." On the day of the trip, everything went smoothly. They enjoyed the countryside, walked beside a quiet river, and talked about their favorite books. At one point, Michael said, "It feels great to take a break from the city and just enjoy nature." Emma nodded. "Yes, moments like these help us recharge and appreciate the little things in life." This dialogue shows how simple conversations and small plans can create meaningful experiences. Next, I want to tell you about Sophie. Sophie started a small business selling homemade crafts. Balancing her new business with her day job was difficult. One evening, a customer named Mr. Thompson wrote to her, "Sophie, I really appreciate the effort you put into this. The piece is perfect, exactly what I imagined." Sophie felt proud and encouraged. She replied, "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Your feedback means so much. I will continue to create with care." This story reminds us that perseverance, effort, and attention to detail can truly pay off. Now, imagine a busy cafe. A man named James accidentally spilled coffee on a customer's laptop. He immediately apologized and offered to pay for the damage. The cashier, Mr. Lee, appreciated his honesty and said, "Accidents happen. Thank you for handling it responsibly." James learned an important lesson.
Sometimes the way we respond to mistakes matters more than the mistakes themselves. Let's hear a short workplace dialogue. Rachel said to Tom, "I'm worried about the deadline. We have so much work to do." Tom replied calmly, "I understand, Rachel. Let's divide the tasks and take one step at a time. We can manage this together." By the end of the week, the project was complete. Rachel realized that teamwork and clear communication can turn stress into success. Now, let's visit the home of Daniel and Laura. Daniel wanted to surprise his wife with a special dinner. He brought fresh ingredients and planned carefully. But that evening, he discovered he had forgotten one key ingredient. Instead of giving up, he improvised. Laura smiled and said, "Daniel, it doesn't matter if everything is perfect. What matters is the effort you put in." They laughed, enjoyed their meal, and realized that flexibility and a positive attitude are just as important as preparation. In a library, two students were preparing for an exam. Mark said to Julia, "I'm struggling to understand this concept in economics. Can you explain it?" Julia replied, "Of course. Let's break it down step by step. I'll give you examples to make it easier." By the end of their session, Mark felt much more confident. This shows us that asking questions and helping each other are essential parts of learning. Peter loved photography. One weekend, he visited a quiet village. There, he met Mr. Adams, an elderly man who had lived in the village all his life. Peter asked, "Mr. Adams, what is your favorite part of living here?" Mr. Adams smiled. "It's the simple life and the people. Every day brings a new story, if you take the time to notice." Peter captured beautiful images, but the greatest lesson was not in his camera. It was in learning to observe and appreciate the small details of life. At the office, Susan's team faced a tight deadline. Alex, one of her colleagues, suggested a bold new approach. Susan replied, "I like your creativity, Alex, but let's evaluate the risks before making a final decision." In the end, they blended Alex's idea with a safer plan. The project succeeded. This example highlights the balance between innovation and caution, especially in professional settings. Tom and Hannah were planning to repaint their living room. Tom said, "Let's do it this weekend." Hannah replied, "I agree, but let's choose a color we both like. Maybe we can look at samples online tonight." Their thoughtful communication helped them avoid misunderstandings and complete the renovation smoothly. Kevin wanted to learn cooking. At first, he made mistakes. But one day, he invited his neighbor, Mrs. Roberts, to taste his food. She said, "Kevin, this is a good start. Keep practicing and you'll improve quickly." Encouraged, Kevin continued, and with patience, he grew more confident in the kitchen. This story reminds us that learning is a journey, and encouragement makes it easier. At a busy station, Sarah realized she had forgotten her ticket. She explained her situation politely to the ticket officer. The officer said, "Don't worry, Sarah, we can issue you a temporary ticket so you can travel today." Sarah was relieved and thankful. This shows how clear communication and honesty can resolve problems quickly. Finally, let's end with Anthony. Anthony was a project manager at a technology company. One Monday morning, he discovered that a client had suddenly changed their requirements. Deadlines were tight, and his team was stressed. Anthony gathered his colleagues and said, "I know this is unexpected, but if we organize our tasks carefully, we can handle it." His colleague Maria suggested breaking the project into smaller steps. Together, they built a new plan. By afternoon, the team felt confident again. When they presented the updated strategy to the client was impressed by their flexibility and professionalism. This story shows us the power of calm leadership, teamwork, and clear thinking in times of pressure. Welcome back. I'm Julia, and I'd like to share more stories and conversations that bring English learning to life in everyday situations. Let's begin with Andrew and Clara. They were planning to host a small dinner party for their neighbors. Andrew asked Clara, "Should we prepare the menu ourselves or order from a restaurant?" Clara replied, "I think we can cook together. It will be fun and more personal." During the preparation, Andrew accidentally burned one dish, but Clara reassured him. "Don't worry, it happens. Let's focus on the other dishes." When the neighbors arrived, everyone enjoyed the food and the warm atmosphere. This shows us that teamwork, patience, and a sense of humor make social gatherings more enjoyable and stress-free. Now, let's meet Olivia, a woman who loves volunteering. She joined a local organization that helps children learn to read. On her first day, she met a young boy named Liam, who struggled with certain words. Olivia kindly said, "Liam, let's read this together slowly. Take your time." Liam gradually improved, and by the end of the week, he could read an entire short story aloud. Olivia felt proud, and his parents thanked her. This reminds us how patience and encouragement can have a lasting impact on others. In a busy supermarket, a man named Robert accidentally picked up the wrong item. The cashier noticed and said politely, "Sir, I think this is not what you intended. Would you like to swap it?" Robert smiled and replied, "Thank you for noticing. I appreciate your help." Such small interactions highlight the importance of attention to detail and polite communication in everyday life.
Now let's move to Ethan and Grace, a couple who decided to start jogging together in the mornings. On their first day, Ethan struggled to keep pace, but Grace encouraged him, saying, "We can start slowly and build up over time." After a few weeks, both of them noticed improvements in their stamina and mood. Ethan said, "I feel more energetic and I enjoy spending this time with you." Grace added, "It's a great way to stay healthy and bond together." Their story shows how persistence, encouragement, and shared goals can strengthen both health and relationships. Liam and Sophie, two colleagues, were preparing for a presentation. Liam said nervously, "I am nervous about presenting in front of the executives." Sophie replied, "I understand. Let's practice together. I can give you feedback and tips." After several practice sessions, Liam gained confidence and delivered a strong presentation. This teaches us that preparation, support, and practice reduce anxiety and improve performance. Henry enjoyed gardening. He decided to grow vegetables for the first time, but his plants did not grow well at the start. He felt frustrated until his neighbor, Mr. Daniels, offered some advice. Try changing the soil and watering at different times. Plants need patience and care. Henry followed the advice, and over the next few months, his garden flourished. His story illustrates how guidance, learning from mistakes, and perseverance lead to success. Paul and Rachel, a married couple, were discussing household responsibilities. Paul said, "Rachel, I think we should organize the cleaning schedules so it is fair for both of us." Rachel agreed. If we divide the tasks and stick to it, our home will feel more organized. By working together, they completed chores efficiently and avoided conflicts. This shows that planning, fairness, and clear communication make daily responsibilities manageable. James wanted to improve his public speaking skills. He joined a local speaking club where members gave speeches and received feedback. At first, he was nervous and stumbled over words. But one member, Mr. Clark, encouraged him. "James, your ideas are clear. Just focus on speaking slowly and making eye contact." James practiced regularly, followed the advice, and gradually became confident. This example shows how consistent effort and feedback help us grow. In a library, two students, Emily and Noah, were preparing for a group project. Emily said to Noah, "Noah, we need to divide the research tasks so we finish on time." Noah replied, "Good idea. I'll focus on the background research and you can handle the analysis." By organizing their work and communicating clearly, they finished successfully. This highlights the importance of teamwork and planning in academic and professional tasks. Alex loved cooking international dishes. One day, he decided to make a traditional recipe from another country. He researched ingredients, followed the instructions carefully, and invited his wife Laura to taste the dish. Laura said, "Alex, this is delicious. I can tell you put a lot of effort into it." Alex felt proud and satisfied. His story teaches that curiosity, effort, and sharing experiences bring joy and learning. In a coffee shop, two friends, Hannah and David, were talking. Hannah said, "David, I've been trying to improve my time management skills." David replied, "Have you tried making a schedule and prioritizing tasks?" Hannah nodded. "Yes, and it's helping me stay more focused and productive." This conversation shows that sharing experiences and strategies helps people learn from each other. Michael and Sophie decided to redecorate their living room. Michael suggested, "Let's choose a color that makes the room feel warm and welcoming." Sophie added, "I agree. We can also rearrange the furniture to create more space." By working together and sharing ideas, they transformed the room beautifully. Their story shows how collaboration and shared vision can enhance creativity and relationships. In a workplace, Claire's team was preparing for an important client meeting. Ben, one of the team members,